Gemma, it's great to see you. Happy New Year, and I guess a huge congratulations on the new contract deal. Was it an easy decision for you?
Yes, Happy New Year. It was. It's great to be starting the year, making this decision and committing to this team. I'm ambitious, the team's ambitious, and so to be able to secure a longer term future here is great.
How much does it mean to get the support of the FAW and the support in this project, because it already feels like a hell of a lot has happened since you've been appointed and the future looks really, really exciting?
Yeah, it's to have the support of the FAW, they really do match my ambition, and they have done since day one. To see how we got so close in the last campaign is a real credit to the players here, and for me, working with this group of players is something that I'm hugely passionate about, the passion that they have for representing their country, and from day one, like you said, so much seems to have happened, and for us to be able to extend that, we've got a long-term plan here, and I'm delighted to be a part of that.
Have you spoken with the players at all, or did you speak to them before signing the deal?
I didn't. I haven't spoke to them. I have had some messages from the players, which is nice. To hear from them. We're on a journey together, staff and players, and for us, we're excited about the future. We got so close in the World Cup campaign, but it's not good enough for us. We don't want to settle for just missing out. So to be able to focus on that future together is really pleasing.
Kind of touched on my next question. You were so close to qualifying for Australia and New Zealand. Like you've just said, close is great, but not good enough. How much as a team have you learned from that experience, and has it kind of fired you up even more now for these European Championship qualifiers?
Yeah, it has. I think the work that we did both on and off the pitch in the last campaign we're massively proud of, but we want to qualify for tournaments. We know that the margins will be fine, so from an on-pitch perspective, we learnt a lot about ourselves. We grew a lot as a team. We know that the margins are going to continue to be fine, so for us to develop tactically moving forward, for us to develop how we continue to be better in games to get over the line is our focus. And from an off-pitch perspective, we're so proud of the work that we delivered. The stats around the increase in participation, the 52% increase in girls playing football in Wales is as proud for us as breaking the record attendances 3 times in the last campaign, and just really dreaming big and making sure that we can make a real change here, and that meaningful social change for us as a team is something that we know why we do what we do, and we want boys and girls to see this team, be proud of this team, and we know that we have that in the back of our minds every time we're driving forward from an on-pitch perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll go on to talk about the future and what that looks like in a bit, but just to go back to this deal, I have to ask, was there interest from anyone else, because it has been such a special year since, for the national side, has the phone been ringing at all?
It's always nice to get interest, but I do think that, like you said, that the game is growing, and when there is interest, it's a credit to really the campaign that we've just had, the success that this team has had, the players and the staff and how they've worked. That interest is really a credit to them. But for me, I'm really, like I said at the beginning, I'm really happy to be here. The long-term plan, I'm hugely passionate about this group of players and this group of staff, and particularly these players and the belief that they have and the quality that they have. I'm excited to work with them for the future.
It's a new year, Gemma, 2023. What do you think 2023 will look like for the Wales national team?
Yeah, it's exciting. It started, our planning has already started for Pinatar. We're playing 3 games in Pinatar, and we're really excited about focusing on what can we get out of these games. The Nations League is starting in September for the women's. It's the first time. It's exciting. Off the back of the European Championships, to have a Nations League, for us to be competing in that, is something that we're really looking forward to. And ultimately, this Euros campaign is all of our focus. So it'll start in Pinatar in February, that'll lead into the April fixtures, and then hopefully some very exciting fixtures in April and July for this team to really show again the steps that they're taking. This group of players are absolutely focused on taking the learnings from the last campaign, and 2023 will be about, first and foremost, how do we build that momentum on the pitch, but how do we keep growing off the pitch as well?
Because that Nations League campaign, that's a really exciting prospect, because when it was introduced in the men's game, nobody was really sure how it was going to pan out. Everyone was thinking, oh gosh, more football to be played. But how much do you think it will benefit the women's game as a whole, but especially this Wales team?
Yeah, I think first of all, for the women's team as a whole, the Nations League is going to increase that marketing opportunity for the women's game. You know, I spoke earlier on around the Euros currently having 16 places. You know, my hope is that competition can continue to grow, just like the men's competition, and that's what we want, because in Europe we are part of a highly competitive group of teams, and we want to be in that group of teams, but we want that to continue to grow. So I think the Nations League will do that. There are a lot of incredibly competitive teams in Europe. It's not just the top teams or the top 5-10 teams in Europe. It's all of and that growth continues to grow throughout. So first of all, I think that. And I think for us as a team to be playing, we always want to play higher ranked nations because that's what we've set our stall out to do. We want to test ourselves, and that's how we believe we'll cross that line, and we'll make sure that we're on the right side of those margins when it comes to qualification.
The draw for the European Championships, the qualifying, it hasn't happened yet. You've mentioned there's only room for 16 teams. Is it doable? Because it doesn't sound like a large number. Wales currently ranked 21st in Europe. Is it doable, do you think?
Yeah, it absolutely is. When we looked at the World Cup campaign, we knew that there were 12 places for the World Cup, so we knew that was even more difficult, and we've seen how close we were to that. We want to continue to get better. We absolutely believe that we can qualify for those European Championships, and it's something that we'll continue to build every aspect of our planning, our preparation. We won't leave any stone unturned. We will be the team that makes sure that we put ourselves in the best position to qualify. But we know ultimately it comes down to margins. We've seen that in the last campaign, but we'll do everything that we can to make sure that we are at our very best, because for us, focusing on ourselves will be the way that we will qualify.
The dust has settled now since that game out in Zurich. How are the girls feeling? Have you had much of a chance to speak to them, over the last couple of months? Because it felt so raw at the time and there was so much disappointment, but now that things have kind of calmed down, what's the mentality like?
Yeah, I think immediately after the game, believe it or not, there was a real feeling of how proud we were to be in the position that we were. Of course, we were disappointed, but actually I have managed to speak to all of the players. I've reviewed the campaign individually with each of the players. We've sat down for half an hour together. We've talked about what we did that we were proud of, but actually what do we want to do moving forward. So from a ownership and accountability point of view, these players are driven around, we know what it means to them to represent their country. That's not a question. But what we know now is what they want to do moving forward, the work that they do in their clubs. These players get better when they're in their clubs, and then when they come to represent their country, we have a window where we want to get as much out as we can. So for us, we've spent time together, we've reviewed. The players are passionate and even more driven. I think that the belief from the last campaign, really for the first time, has set them on a kind of mentality of we will be a team that can compete. When we played against France, particularly in the World Cup campaign, you look at that performance, and the players built belief throughout the campaign, and that would be the word that we will take into this campaign.
It seems like a really interesting time, and the situation with the men's national team isn't too dissimilar to the women in terms of it almost feels like the beginning of quite a big transitioning period, because you've got senior players that have been here for a while, perhaps looking now towards the end of their careers, and I guess you're going to be the person that has to kind of bridge the older generation with this new exciting young talent coming through.
Yeah, I think that that's a natural progression in any team. There are some similarities, as you said, between the men's national team and the women's national team, and I think how we do that, we'll focus on making sure that's right for the individuals. I think we've got some players who are quite notably our senior players, and players who I want to make sure continue to play in my time here. So that's my first priority. People are talking to me about which players will be moving on, etc. But actually, it's about making sure we do what's right for the individual. We have a lot of great young players in this team, and we've got to make sure that everyone is on an individual journey and that they're continuing to get better. So for us, focusing on that transition of players, yes, that is a focus for me. I want to make sure that the depth of this team increases as well. So that's a huge focus from a talent perspective. I want to make sure that our youth teams are aligned with what we're doing, and that's something that we've done since I've been here from day one, and making sure that we provide opportunities for these players to be the best they can be.
Yeah, depth is the key word if you do want to be a team that is constantly competing and getting to major tournaments. How do you go about, because there's been some criticism about perhaps the lack of changes during games and stuff. You know, when you look at that bench, what do you want to see and how do you get to what you want to see? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, at this level, I think you see the similarities with the men's team as well. To play at this level, it's extremely competitive, and I think that any player that wants to get a starting shirt has to prove that they can take the shirt of the player that's starting, and to play in this team is not a given. You know, to get a starting place in this team, we have some world-class players, and I think that's great for our finishers and supporters, the players who are trying to get the starting shirt, because they're looking at the likes of, you know, Sophie Ingle, Jess Fishlock, Angharad James, and it's how do I take your shirt, and that's a benchmark. You know, those shirts are not going to be given. We have some unbelievable players, and I think for us it's about depth, but it's about actually recognising the players on the pitch who will get us the performances, get us the results, as well as embedding some of those younger players. And I think you'll see us do that throughout this next campaign. You won't see whole change, but what we will see is players starting to be taking moments in games, taking opportunities, and making sure that they can compete at that level, because I think that's a key thing for me around how we continue to prepare as a team. So when we go to Pinatar, it will be about preparing for that Nations League. So there won't be a lot of changes, but if players are in a position to compete, they will be given opportunities.
And the players and their clubs, how important is it that you've got your players playing at the highest level? I know Sophie, she's just signed a new deal with Chelsea, which is great to see. Glad she's staying there. Yeah. But how important is it as the national team manager that you've got your players playing at the top with their clubs?
Yeah, it's one of the most important things. I think that the players have made some great decisions in the last 18 months. They have to be playing. You know, to play at club level to the highest level is so important, because when we transition into international football, that transition is so much easier, because the game is different, obviously, but it's quick. It's playing at the highest level. So that gap around club football and international football can only be bridged by playing at the highest level. And our players are making great decisions to do that, because they know how important that is.
Off the pitch, Gemma, it's fair to say this team has just really captured the heart of the nation, you know, over the last 18 months or so, broken several attendance records. You know, off the pitch, how important is it that you keep that momentum going in terms of growing the game and growing the support that you guys have?
Yeah, it's as important for us. We want to increase the visibility in all areas of this country, and the players are so passionate about doing that. It's not something that we have to work hard at as a team. It's why we do what we do. We want to continue, you know, for us, for them, for her, is why we do what we do, and we're going to continue to grow that. I'm hugely passionate about making a lasting change here, both on and off the pitch, and the players and the staff here are just as passionate. So for us to increase that visibility, to play around the country, you know, to play in North Wales, to play in stadiums that we've not played in yet, to give people an opportunity to support this team, because the support that we had in the last campaign, without doubt, helped us to be as successful as we were. So that support, growing, continuing, selling out stadiums, is exactly where we want to dream, and dreaming big. And I mentioned it before about creating that meaningful social change. When I hear stats that, you know, girls football and participation has increased by 52%, that stat is incredible, and the impact that we can have on young girls and young boys. And it's a real credit to the players and their visibility and their passion to make sure that their legacy is long lasting.
Yeah, you just mentioned it would be, personally, I think it would be great to see the national team playing across the country. And, you know, last time at the Cardiff City Stadium, it was just over 15,000 fans. Can you sell it out this year, do you think, Gemma?
We would like to. I always get in trouble on these when I speak to you guys, because I put people under pressure in the staff team. So I would say yes, and then the staff team will be giving me a hard time. But I do believe so. I think that when you look at the growth, not only at international level, you know, when Cardiff City ladies are playing at the stadium and looking at the attendances that they're getting, I think that's a real credit to the whole game in Wales, the FAW's commitment and investment into the game. I do think we can sell it out. I do think we can dream big, because why wouldn't we? You know, for us, our potential on the pitch, in my opinion, is limitless, and it's the same for us off the pitch as well.
You've just touched on Cardiff City and the domestic leagues. Your appointment as Wales manager coincided with the restructure of the Adran leagues. You know, we pay a lot of attention to the domestic game here on Sgorio. How important, I guess, to the whole ecosystem of Welsh women's football that we've got a domestic league that, okay, maybe isn't, you know, feeding players into the first team, but that it's a platform for youngsters to improve?
I think it's pivotal. I think it's always about opportunity. It's always about raising standards. It's always about raising opportunity and accessibility for the game, because what platform we have here is to offer that local opportunity, and it is about individual players getting the right opportunity at the right time. And the Adran League provides a really great platform for that, for players to play locally. And then if it is right for them to go and play in the WSL and in the Championship and in the academies, then that's the best thing for them. But actually, if it's the best thing for them to stay local, then that opportunity is there, but also that the standards are there as well. That professionalism of the women's game is something that's going to continue to grow. So the Adran League and how that continues to become more professional at a domestic level is key for the success of the national team, but actually for that success and the growth of the game, so that young girls have an open pathway and can really clearly see if they want to stay here to play, if they want to go elsewhere to play, that the opportunities do exist.
Amazing. Well, Gemma, we've started a new year, end of 2022, so everyone gets a bit reflective and everyone kind of looks back and sets some goals. So I'm going to ask you to reflect on 2022 a little bit and then look ahead to this year. So describe your 2022 as Wales manager in 3 words.
It was, wow, that's in 3 words. There's about 50 words going through my head right now. I need to choose it was definitely eventful in terms of, like you said, the on-pitch, the off-pitch, eventful. Proud is a word, and I know that proud is a word that again links to the on and off pitch progression of the team, and I think that this is kind of 2 words, but we broke records. So I think for us, breaking those records linked to why we did what we did that's 4 words, but there's so many. That's
more. All right, I'll let you have that one. Yeah. As a team, what was the most important lesson that you learned last year?
I think the most important lesson we learned was around those margins. As soon as you said that, the Switzerland game came into my mind, around how this game is growing, how the game is becoming more professional, how we know that the margins are fine. But I think that those margins, they'll stay with us to when we think about fuel and what's going to motivate us to qualify for the European Championships. We learned so much about ourselves in 2022. And the margins will be the thing that helps us take that step, because we've been there now, and you can't buy those experiences, and we have them.
Is there anything that you could do differently, if you could, looking back at the last 12 months?
If we could replay the last 20 seconds of the Switzerland game, I'd like to do that differently, if that's okay. But again, when I think about that Switzerland game, if that had gone to penalties, it could have ended well for us. It could have ended in a different way for us. And I'm trying not to, I've mentioned the Switzerland game a couple of times, but when we talk about doing things differently, I don't think we would have. I think that we planned as a team, as players, as staff, in the most thorough way and a way that we thought was best for us. When we reflect on that, we're always going to say we could do things better, but I don't think we'd do anything differently.
And what were you most proud of last year?
I was most proud of, first of all, the group of players and them realising and almost having that belief for the first time around what we are capable of. The Slovenia game for me was a real moment for those players. I was so proud of them, for them to know that they can get over the line in those games, and for us to get to the playoffs and making history in that way. I couldn't have been happier for the players, because my belief in them is always through the roof in terms of what I think they can achieve. But for them to realise that would be the first thing. And then the second thing for me is the fans and breaking those attendance records. To have over 15,000 in that Slovenia game was incredible, and for us to have their support, that feeling, you can't recreate that feeling. Did it help us to be successful in that game against Slovenia? It absolutely did. So yeah, that would be the proudest moment in terms of the support and what we've done off the pitch and how this team have inspired.
Yeah, it's been an incredible 12 months, and looking ahead to the next 12 months, Gemma, what would success look like in 2023 for yourself, but also to the team?
Yeah, success for us would look like tactically making sure that on pitch we can continue to get better, we can continue to evolve, we can continue to be competitive, We can continue, you know, we won't qualify for the Euros in 2023, but we can put a marker down to really take steps towards qualification for those European Championships. And then from an off-pitch perspective, we've got to keep growing this game. We've got to use the momentum on the pitch to grow off the pitch. And I said around visibility, around visiting different stadiums, playing across the country, that's got to be what we set our sights on, making sure that we can continue to break records, we can continue to, you know, smash the participation records to make sure that we can keep on track with all of that on and off pitch work. What
kind of mindset do you want yourself and the players to have this year?
We've got to have a winning mindset. We've got to continue to make sure that we stay focused on what it takes to win here. So we have a plan, we have a high performance plan, and as staff and players we have to stay focused on that winning mentality and what that looks like for us. And what winning looks like on the pitch and off the pitch will be how we build the programme, how we make sure that we move camp to camp and we're stronger.
I asked you your 3 words for 2022.
Yeah.
So what would be your 3 words that you take into 2023, Gemma?
I would take for 2023, I think it's got to be about momentum. That would be the first word. I'm going to say winning mentality, and that takes me up to 3 words, but I think it's got to be about momentum, and it's got to be about focused around that progression, winning mentality. I've done 4 words again. You're going to have to give me 4 words. But yeah, I would say momentum and progression and winning mentality.
Well, Gemma, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Huge congratulations on the new contract and good luck, pob luck for the year ahead.
Thank you, diolch.